like sometimes I find it fascinating, like moving around different places
Yes.
to actually like think of where I am on the planet.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it's often a place I wouldn't have thought of being.
really.
Like doing a video out in a forest in Nijmegen. Yeah, I didn't
Very
know that
nice.
was a possibility, but it's amazing to get to do it. Yeah.
Yes. There's these programs where people will like be on holiday
Yes.
and then they show them a map and they ask them, where on the map are you? And they won't be able to like pinpoint it.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. We should play that game.
We should. Yeah, I find actually now I'm often like very aware of where I am
Yeah.
on the globe,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, which also makes it feel really big and really small at the same time.
That's
It's weird.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, um, welcome guys.
Hey.
This is Mark.
Hi.
Lots of you will probably know my channel through Mark, but for those of you who don't know Mark yet, could you maybe introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about the work you do in the
Yeah.
mental health
Oh,
space.
we're starting out with the toughest question because I never know how to explain what I do. The focus of what I do. So I used to struggle with a bunch of mental illness diagnoses, and through the journey of recovery, I started to realize there weren't a lot of helpful supports for recovery. That most of everything was focused on like just managing symptoms, and so now I make tools and support community to help people navigate recovery and
Exactly.
build great mental health and fitness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what also really helped me a lot. So I had been working with a bunch of therapists already, but once I started working with you one-on-one and really applying the concepts, that helped me a ton. So I want to say thanks.
Oh, you're welcome.
And
thank you.
I hope today we can get into some of the stuff that has been useful to both of us and lots of other people. So that's what I'll be asking some questions about.
We already did the most challenging question, so everything else
we should be
easy.
good now.
What do I do? I don't know.
All right. First question.
Well, questions. All right. It's really nice out here, actually. It's a great place.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Maybe we just cut the questions and just sit here.
Have you heard about the trees? Yeah.
All right. So you went from picking up a bunch of mental illness diagnoses, I would say, in the complete opposite direction.
Yeah.
Being very mentally healthy. So what made you first seek out help? Like right at the start?
Actually, that was one of the reasons I got into what I do, because when I first got help, like everything sucked. Like I didn't think I struggled with mental illness.
Yeah.
And even when I went to get help, the first thing I went to get help for was depression. And I still at that point, like I would do things like stand in front of my stove and watch it and be like, oh, I've got to leave. But maybe I shouldn't leave. I'll just stand here and watch it. And I saw that as completely normal.
Yeah.
One of the things, my intrusive thoughts would just be constantly violent. Like if I was waiting to cross the street and there were other people crossing, I would see the cars just running over them and like guts going everywhere. And I would feel nauseous just trying to cross the street. And I didn't think that was a problem.
Yeah.
And I went then to get help for depression and addiction from a school, kind of counselor, but their role was really to just refer you on to somebody in the community, like a therapist in the community. Went there, that was terrible. I used up all of the insurance. And then I went back to the school counselor, and I was trying to start to cut out, like make changes at that point. And I think there was something I mentioned when I was going back, something about going back to check the stove many times. And then the counselor, I think, started asking me a bunch of more questions, and then suggested I do a research program for OCD.
Right.
But I was, even as I was doing all sorts of, like I wasn't using knives, I'd only eat frozen food because I thought, like, one, you didn't have to cut it, but then also I thought it would be poisoned. I was so disconnected from reality. I didn't believe pictures of me were me. Like I would check my license all the time. I would check mirrors. I struggled with photos of me because I would have that like deep personalized weird feeling, because I'd be like, that's not a photo of me. But I didn't see that as an issue until things were just really, really bad. And so I started doing what I do because I realized, oh, like you don't have to wait
Yeah.
until things are bad
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
to get help.
Yeah.
And so it's still something I'm always fascinated in. How do we help people start to build mental health and fitness skills before, like, like similar to like how do you help somebody exercise before a heart attack?
Yeah.
Whereas in mental illness, I think we're like, oh no, like once you're way out of it and your life is completely like blown up, then seek help.
Yes.
And it's not a good way to do it.
No,
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. Okay, so what did treatment look like at the start? Like when you first started seeing a little progress? What?
Oh, so it was neat because even I, it was great that I worked with a psychologist. So when I got into this research program, OCD treatment, it was great I worked with a psychologist who never mentioned anything about like managing or anything like that. It was very, oh, okay, like you do a bunch of compulsions, we're gonna start to cut them out
Yeah,
and
that's
change them.
great. Yeah.
So also the progress was very much me doing stuff. So maybe it was in the second or third week.
Yeah.
So we were doing exposure and response prevention.
Yeah.
Maybe in the second or third week of meeting the psychologist, I had to stop checking door locks.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it. I kind of put it off, and I would do more and more compulsions in the house. Like I would be checking all sorts of appliances, and then it would just get too late because I'd be like, "Ooh, it's too big of a deal. I've just got to go to school or go to work," and then I wouldn't do it. And then so I went back to the psychologist. I was like, "I didn't do it," and the psychologist was like, "Well, like we could get you medication. You'd have to wait to like see a psychiatrist, but like if you can't do it, like it's too much anxiety. We can look at other options." And I was like, no, like this week I'm gonna do it. But then still, I don't think I did it until the day before I was gonna have to go see the
Yes.
psychologist again.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be the easiest compulsion to cut
Yeah.
out. But then, yeah, after I did that, and I realized because I'd always checked like every lock in my life, and if I couldn't check a lock, I would just not go out or something like that. And so to make a change that had been in my life forever that I saw as really normal, after that, then I realized, oh, I could change things.
Yeah.
And so then I just started doing more. But that
Right.
first change was still like the first time I did it. I also remember it was like the biggest panic attack of my life. I closed the door, and then I was just frozen in the hallway of the apartment.
Yeah.
And then I was so anxious that somebody was going to come see me in the hallway, but I couldn't step forward. I was like, no, I can't go back and check it. And my heart was just pounding because I
Yeah.
was sure I'd done like just horrible catastrophes by not checking it.
Yeah. So it was focused on cutting out compulsions at first, and then at what point did you guys like finish up treatment? When was it like, okay, we're done, or you're you can go off on your own?
So I was helped by bureaucracy because this was a research program that was happening through the public healthcare system. So I was kind of going to an outpatient program at a hospital, but then the funding got pulled for it. So maybe just a couple weeks in.
All right.
And it ended up being 6 weeks. Yeah, 6 weeks. Yeah. I feel like it should have been longer. No. Maybe it was like, oh no, 6 months. It was every week. I was thinking 6 weeks. No. It was every week for 6 months.
Right.
But I feel like maybe in the second month, they pulled the funding, something like that. Because this was many years ago. This is like 12, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, so it was ending anyway.
Yeah.
And there was no possibility of continuing. But I feel like at that point it wasn't a huge deal to me, because at that point I knew, oh, whatever these things are that I do to control uncomfortable feelings, I just need to keep on cutting them out.
So then you kept going on yourself by yourself.
Then I just kept going on my own.
Yeah. Okay. You didn't have someone to like guide you in that process?
No.
Right.
At that point it was just kind of, I always describe it as the brain pushing me around. So then it was more about just looking for where would the brain like push me, like basically the brain going, same as with the lock. Like you need to check the lock, or else this bad
Yeah.
thing's going to happen. Just looking for that wherever I felt like I had to do something.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, then I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I must say I'm very impressed that you managed to do that on your own. Yeah.
It's super.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my motion for
But
that.
you
And
kind
you
of
feel it.
you
Yeah.
got the hang of it, and you were like, we are gonna continue working on this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I believed everything that would show up in my head. So I think also early on making those changes, right from the start, it felt like I was doing like the most dangerous things imaginable. Like when I started to use knives again, I was like, well, this is like, I don't know, like it just seems so extreme.
Yeah.
I was like, even though it's like kind of normal to maybe for a lot of people to use a knife to cut a pepper.
Yes.
Uh,
It doesn't feel that way.
no.
No.
But that was a huge deal because I was like, oh, like I'm gonna go buy vegetables now that need a knife. I'm not gonna have any fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would feel like
Right.
I was doing something really dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Could you get into making the connection between making changes with your mental health and making changes with businesses? Because I found that very interesting. So yeah, could you get into that?
Yeah, so that was a really helpful, lucky support I had because I was doing grad school at the time to study how to help businesses, so especially things like video game companies, innovate and manage complex teams. Like to get a video game with like a AAA title with so many different moving parts to the same place on the deadline to deliver something that's actually enjoyable. That's a really complex process. Same with just making a piece of software that people actually need. And I was learning about using values and helping teams to manage uncomfortable feelings, but also manage like the random urges that pop up, like, oh, like I can make this amazing feature in the game, and just ignore the fact that it would take a massive team and $1 million in 10 extra months. I realized those same experiences where I was working on learning how to help teams manage and stick to values were really useful with what I was going through, because I was encountering a difficult feeling and then going back to just something I'd done before to manage it. Essentially, with recovery, I was having to do something innovative. Like I was having to do something I'd never done before that I didn't know how to do, and allow all these uncomfortable experiences to be there, or allow like notice like an urge to go and do something and go, yeah, that's a great idea, but I'm going to go and do something different because it's actually useful to me. When I was doing therapy, I realized a lot of the tools and supports we would work on with companies around like not mental illness, just like supposedly normal stuff, we had so many more supports in the business world than existed in therapy. Like in with business innovation and change, we would talk about how like if you expect a really simple change to happen in an organization, it has to be on the wall. Every meeting, every day, when you're doing like agile project management, has to happen around these very visible values.
Yes.
Everything is referred back to them. But then at therapy, you're kind of told like, hey, here's this really difficult thing, go change it. See you next week.
Yes.
And you just expected to do it.
Yeah.
And it helped me so much to bring in those supports around like really visualizing change
Yes.
that I was working on with organizations and companies, but to do in my own life.
Yes.
And so I learned first about values and aligning actions with values in business innovation.
Yes.
And then later I learned about acceptance and commitment therapy, which is like setting values and then lining up actions with them while having uncomfortable experiences. And so then I was like, oh, this is exactly what I found so helpful.
Yes.
And so that's how I came to it.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Basically playing with sticky notes.
Yes. So that's what it looked like. Visualizing it, it was a lot of sticky notes.
Yeah. Making things tangible and persistent.
Yeah.
So often, if there's something I want to do, like a different action I actually value doing, it was way more helpful to have it visible where I was going to experience the anxiety.
Yes.
Because in those moments, I wouldn't be able to think of it.
Yeah.
Like in that moment, all I'm thinking about is I gotta do this compulsion. I gotta fix this feeling. Having ways to get outside of my head and see it was really helpful.
You already mentioned it was very recovery focused from the start. So the first therapist that really helped you cutting out compulsions was like, we're gonna cut out these compulsions. Is that what made you get into a very recovery focused mindset instead of managing the illness, or what made you really focus on like recovery and that it's possible, because it is?
Yeah, well, I was really lucky to come to meet that psychologist, because so we never really talked about recovery.
Yeah.
It just the way it was presented to me. So because even when I would like see, like even if I was like going in the grocery store worried somebody had poisoned all of my food, I didn't see that as like a mental health issue. So I never went on any mental health forums or anything like that.
Yeah.
So even when they're like, oh, okay, you have OCD, you have obsessive compulsive disorder, that meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
And I didn't like seek out anything around that.
Yeah.
So when I met a therapist and they were like, oh yeah, you just cut this stuff out. I was like, okay, you just cut it out. It was only after, hi puppy, hello. This really cute dog.
Yes.
Came here.
Just outside the shot.
Yeah. When I later on joined like online mental health groups, like online OCD groups in particular, because I was like, oh, this is amazing. I didn't know you could get over like serious mental illness.
Yeah.
That was so fascinating. Why does nobody talk about that? I want to connect, because I was like, oh, everybody must be doing this.
Yes.
I still remember the first time I went on an OCD forum, I was just like, why is everybody talking about like how to do compulsions and like just complaining about the anxieties and the intrusive thoughts?
Yeah.
Because one, also, I saw it was fascinating. Two things I found fascinating at first. One, people would talk about having themes, whereas my experience was that was so unique to me. I had everything. Like it had never occurred to me you could just have one fear.
Yeah.
And so that seemed wild to me. But then also they had the insight. Like I had no idea that any of these intrusive thoughts were weird or strange. Like I believed them completely.
Yeah.
But seeing so many people actually had the insight to know that they were intrusive thoughts, but then weren't cutting out the compulsions, was super, super weird to me.
Yes. Yeah. I have been in one of those Facebook groups too. Yeah. It was just, I remember there was someone posted this meme in it, and it was very accurate. It's the meme, maybe I can put it in the video. It's the meme where someone is drowning and there's one hand still above the water.
Yeah.
It's like, please help me. And then there's some issue, like maybe intrusive thoughts. And then the other hand just high fives it. I have it too.
Yeah, yes. I always see that happen all the time. And that was the thing that I found so weird. I was like, wait, you, like, that person is struggling and you're just going, yeah, I have that. I'm so glad I'm not alone. Oh, you're drowning? I'm drowning.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's form a support group for drowning.
Yes. So that's why you really like building community around values and not around the stuff we want to leave behind.
Exactly. I think it makes a big difference if you're joining community around where you want to go, or you're joining community around just like high-fiving, drowning.
Yeah.
There absolutely is a place where it can be useful to have support around struggling.
Yeah.
Like I think, if you almost drown, it's probably really useful to have some support group around drowning.
Yeah.
But then it's really useful to join a group that swims.
Yes. If you want to leave the stuff behind, then for sure.
Yeah. Because I think what helped me at that time too was seeing how important social support was. And so, because so many of my fears were about being rejected or being alone, that if I built social support around a thing I hated, well, I wouldn't want to let it go.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want to lose the social support.
Yeah. So a quote I really love from one of your videos.
Oh.
It's a video that's talking about recovery, and you mentioned this concept where you explain how you've been like recovered many years. And if someone that's just started working on their mental health, you tell them we are in the exact same place.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That, because I think it's good to bring up, because I think too, if we're approaching recovery, a lot of times we think like, I've got to get to the special place, which probably looks like this. Like, this is like a really nice
This
forest.
is-
It's
this
probably,
is
yeah.
the
Oh, isn't it great to be
recovery
in this
spot.
this bench? Is the special. So everyone is like, oh, I got to get to the special recovery bench.
Come to Nijmegen and sit down on this bench.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
regular trains. The intercity train is
Yeah.
really nice, and you can get here. But also, we only ever have the choice we make in this moment, and in this moment, everybody gets to have whatever experience they're having, and make a choice about how they spend their time and energy, and that really helps me. I think it's two things. One, it always helps me like take care of myself and give the things I want to give, because there's no, even though I'm on the bench right now, there's no special, like, I guess you don't get to take mental health and mental fitness for granted.
Yeah.
It's something I'm going to practice in this moment, because it was never about fixing something. I think that was a part of the huge journey with this, is seeing that I want to be myself in the world and not be chasing around a bunch of brain stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And so that practice of being myself is always something I need to do in this moment. And anybody else, even if somebody's just been like having all sorts of intrusive thoughts about terrible, violent things happening, in the next moment, all they have is that choice. So like, yeah, there are a bunch of experiences happening right now. What do I value giving? And I'm going to practice giving that.
Yeah.
And then the next moment, again, it doesn't matter what experience we had in the previous moment. It's the same choice again.
Yeah, I think that's so helpful. And it also, yeah.
Oh, I was wondering, well, what do you find challenging about that, or
Ooh.
useful about that?
So what I found really useful about that is it helps you realize that you can really change that, change your actions, and you really can take ownership of the choices you make, not seeing it as this chronic illness that's just there. It really helps you make changes, and then I find it's important not to kind of get into like punishing yourself, like, oh, I've done all these compulsions, that was all my doing, but don't take it that way. But it was really helpful for me to see, okay, I can just cut out these compulsions, do different actions. It's very difficult, but it's doable, and I can make these changes, and then I'll probably lead a way better life. Yeah.
Oh, you brought up the punishing.
Yeah.
I would do that all the time too.
Yeah.
Right. And that comes up all the time where we think I've somehow tainted something because, I was doing a bunch of compulsions. Now I can't go do the thing I wanted to do. I'll save it till tomorrow.
Yeah.
I swear the brain knows
that
like if it gets us to do a bunch of compulsions, then we'll avoid even more things, and then we'll feel even more pressure, and we'll hate on ourselves even more.
Yeah. I know it's very weird. It's like just realizing you can not do a compulsion really helps. Sometimes I'll catch myself doing compulsions, and then I'm like, I can just stop doing this right now. It's gonna be very, very challenging. I'll have a lot of very, very uncomfortable feelings, but it is doable to stop the compulsions. So that was really, really helpful. And also having someone who has done that same thing, cut out those compulsions, made those big changes, and seeing that it's possible is a really big support. Yeah, that's someone being you.
Oh, I feel, but you bring up a great point, because I think how we talk about these things has a huge impact.
Yeah.
And I think often on a lot of mental illness forums, they're talked about in a way where you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like even we'll use terms like, oh, the intrusive thoughts made me, the anxiety made me, or just like I couldn't do this because of the anxiety, because of the depression. Where it positions it in this situation, which is a bit like saying like, like I couldn't go to the market today because I can't fly. And we're just like, oh yeah, I can't fly either. Oh, I guess we can't do it. But when we talk about it, it's like, oh yeah, like I had that experience, and I was, having a panic attack. I was really anxious. There were these intrusive thoughts of jabbing pens in my eye, and I went to meet somebody new
Yeah.
and took that along. Then by even just sharing those stories, it makes it.
Yeah.
We can have a different story, I think, in our heads.
Just
which
seeing
makes a
that
difference.
that it's possible.
Yeah.
To make those changes is like a huge support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like, seeing that somebody can make donuts.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, if that person can make donuts, I will eat them. Yeah, it's possible.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So you also talk about the more normal compulsions, fueling the more clinical ones. So with clinical ones, you refer to the ones we would usually cut out during therapy and really focus on. So what are normal compulsions, and why is it useful to cut those out too?
Yeah, I think it's so important to cut out the compulsions as patterns.
Yeah.
And so I'll often think of it as a mountain. So the things at the top of the mountain are the things we'll often stick a label on. Like we'll be like, that's health anxiety mountain. And at the top, we may notice that we're struggling with something because we're like constantly Googling symptoms. We're constantly checking things in our body. We're like, oh, I think this. We're catastrophizing in our heads because we've noticed an uncomfortable feeling. We're like, this is it. Like, this is going to kill me, or I've got something that's going to disrupt my life. And we see that as an issue. But if we look at the pattern of checking and controlling there, it's extremely likely, I would say 100% likely, that person is doing the exact same pattern around many things they see as normal. Because all they're worried about with a health anxiety is that some bad thing will interfere with my life. It's likely, for instance,
Continue.
There was a noise from inside.
So, we're robots.
Yeah. Shh, nobody's supposed to know about being a robot. So it's really likely that the person struggling with the health anxiety will also be checking on other things in life that they worry could disrupt life. And so a simple way to look at that is even how they might check their phone, where they might just get a uncertainty about, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen with that work project. I better check and make sure my boss didn't email me so I don't get fired. It's the same pattern again. There could be this bad thing in the future that disrupts my life. I just want to check and make sure. The problem is with our phone, we could get that reassurance. And there's probably many ways that person is doing that, constantly going, ooh, this would be bad. I'm going to check and control it. And they can get that certainty, maybe get some relief, but then all that does is teach the brain that you want to do that. And so the brain's going to keep leveling up the uncertainty until it touches on something where you can't get it.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're like going to the doctors again and again and again and again, trying to get some reassurance there's not a problem. The brain's going to throw up the physical sensations that are going to make you think there's a problem.
Yeah.
And it cascades up the mountain. And so it's going to be about blowing up the mountain requires taking out those normal compulsions. So the other ways that we're trying to control the possibility of this bad thing happening. Yeah.
I found it very helpful as well. You can, once you're aware of this, you can start to notice kind of the runway of normal compulsions into the more clinical ones, I'd say. Yeah.
I'd say a runway is a great way to describe it. Because I think even on a day, if there's something made somebody have to do a bunch of checking.
Yeah.
Like I often mention this with traveling. If somebody's having to like just check and stay on top of lots of like departures and do I have everything? The brain goes, oh, we're doing the thing where we check and control the bad thing. Okay, I can do more.
Yeah.
Like the runway can be really fast.
Yeah. And then also it helps just realizing, okay, if there's some really stressful event happening, some big uncertainty, it's not weird that the brain would chase more control, throw up more intrusive thoughts, stuff like that.
Totally. Yeah. Exactly. It's just doing its job, really. I think that was the other thing that helped me so much with the normal compulsions, is seeing I was teaching it to search out uncertainties. I was like, ooh, I like controlling uncertainties about bad things. Every time it did it, I would react to it.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to do more.
Yeah.
Have you found any normal compulsions that were really useful for you to kind of go, okay, this is one I'm not gonna do anymore?
Oh yes, I mainly notice it. Well, I notice it with phone use,
Yeah,
like in
it's
general.
huge. Yeah,
Yeah, just grabbing it, checking it. So yeah, setting boundaries about when I'm gonna be on my phone.
yeah,
And then with dating apps, I'll
yeah.
get the normal compulsions too. And what I also notice is the apps really want you
Mhm.
to keep swiping, so they facilitate the compulsions. Yeah, yeah,
Totally. So
yeah,
much of modern app design is just playing on people's uncertainties.
yeah, exactly.
And so it's a great way too to see like this stuff is not connected to like a mental illness diagnosis.
Yeah,
This is human stuff.
yeah,
And most people are just kind of unaware
yeah,
of how the
yeah,
brain is playing them, but also now technology is.
yeah. And I was talking about this with a friend about Tinder, a dating
Mhm.
app, and we both noticed
Yeah.
the same thing, and it was very obvious.
Mhm.
The first person shown would be like a very popular profile, one that's
Mm.
liked a lot to get you
Mhm.
to start swiping, and then the second one would always be a match. So if you'd like the second one, they would have liked you too. So then you get like, oh, I get a match. Wait, this
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
And then you keep swiping. So it's yeah, we both recognize it's very obvious they're doing that, but
Mhm.
yeah,
So much app use ends up being about like chasing reassurance, but
yeah,
not actually like building
exactly,
connections,
yeah,
which is unfortunate. Because yeah, they benefit from actually people being lonely
yeah.
and people being like, "Oh, I'm not getting matches. I'm gonna go and try to get more."
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's reset the
Yeah,
video one
see
more
how the
time.
video's doing.
Woo, it's still going.
Okay, welcome back to the recovery bench.
Yes, I was feeling very anxious over there, but now I'm
Yeah, well,
recovered
that's
again.
great. Yeah,
It's
now I have no issues because I'm sitting on this bench.
so I was actually gonna
Mm.
ask you a question about recovery right now.
Mhm.
So you also talk about ditching the concept of recovery.
Yeah,
Why is that?
because we can't stay on the bench forever. And because there's a couple of reasons, but what I often describe recovery is, so if you're chasing it like the bench, I describe it as a crystal piss pot, like those bedpans people used to use, but it becomes this like really special thing and we're terrified of breaking it. But then that becomes the new fear.
Yeah,
Because again, we're like, ooh, there's this bad thing that could happen. I need to control it. And then people start lots of checking and controlling, and you've already relapsed
yeah,
at that point, and
yeah,
inevitably it's going to break, and then people are like, oh no, there's piss everywhere and
yeah.
glass, and that's not helpful. And so I find it much more useful to switch the focus to things we want to grow and build. And so that's one of the reasons. So we're doing a workshop in Rotterdam coming up, and it's focused on approaching ourselves and mental health as a garden, which I find is a much more useful, a healthier approach, because we're not doing it as just looking for bad things to weed out of the garden. And sometimes when we approach recovery as this thing we need to get, we're just very focused on getting rid of things we hate.
Yeah,
If we focus on getting rid of things we hate, we haven't grown anything we actually want.
yeah,
Shifting the focus to just what we want to build and grow allows us to say, okay, like there could be all sorts of things that come up. There could be challenges in life. There could be thoughts and feelings that come up. That's fine because I want to have any of that. But I'm going to be giving my time and energy to proactively growing the things I want.
yeah,
The other key reason for that is because if we measure success by fixing things we hate, so we're like, my garden is good because I pulled out all the weeds. We're always going to need more weeds to be successful.
yeah,
Whereas if we're celebrating our garden because we grew something delicious we want to enjoy, yeah, maybe there were some weeds there. Like maybe some of the plants didn't make it.
yeah,
That's okay.
yeah,
Like we don't have to get it perfect. We
yeah.
still did the things that are really important to us.
Yeah, I find the values part so helpful in leaving the mental illness behind
Mhm.
and really just living a pretty nice life.
Yeah, like we can just
And that's
go
what it's
live.
supposed to be about,
Yeah,
right? Good mental health is about being able to do the things you want to do and enjoy life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because we can do that when there's some, I don't know, like some weird random thing happens that we don't like. It hasn't ruined
Yeah.
that thing that we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you're able to do now that you weren't when you were really
Oh,
struggling and that you really enjoy doing or are grateful for?
yeah. Oh, there's so many things though. Even because there was so much I wouldn't do at
Yeah.
the time. Even oh wow. There's yeah. So there's so much. Like so one of them, like at my most extreme, right? I wasn't cooking. I wasn't using knives.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could say now I can like cut an apple, but actually cooking. So also I wouldn't cook for other people because I was really afraid I was going to poison them,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't use knives because I was afraid I would stab them. And so I can like I took cooking classes, was a great practice for me, kind of part of working on mental health skills, but starting to approach it from an angle of, oh, okay, cooking and food in general doesn't have to be about controlling a fear or avoiding bad things.
Yeah.
Cooking can be about like nourishing myself and sharing with others.
Yeah.
So that was a big switch. That's, I'd say, one of the most enjoyable. So now when I travel, I'll often take cooking classes.
Oh, nice.
And I can cook for myself when I'm
Ah.
traveling around. And so I really like that.
And you also get to know different kitchens then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess that'd be one of the others. Like now I travel all the time.
Yeah.
And so I'm always in different places. And in the past, that would have just been just full of so much anxiety, or
Yeah.
even the number of compulsions I would do when I was just leaving
Yeah.
my home in the past. I would actually, and I did this all the time. If I was going on a trip, I would pull an all-nighter
Yeah.
because I was so worried about like both missing whatever train or airplane or whatever, but also I would have so many compulsions I would need to do.
Yeah.
So now being able to sleep before I travel somewhere, but also now I can be ready to leave in like 20 minutes. I can have my entire life packed up,
Yeah.
and then I'm ready to go. So I really like that. I don't know.
Cool.
Is there anything that you started to do now that you couldn't do before?
I really like that I'm able to connect with people
Yeah.
in a different way again.
Yeah.
Kind of build relationships, maintain relationships. I'm really, really grateful for that. So an example that's really, really important to me. So when I was really, really struggling very badly, I was still living at home with my parents, and it would just be days of compulsions, or I would be headphones on, just binging series to kind of distract myself.
Yeah.
It was just an awful time. And yeah, my parents would obviously see that, and it would be really stressful for them, of course. So that was just a very bad time. And I really am very grateful that I'm able to spend time with them and have them not worry about me, or I'm like the kind of the party pooper, I don't know. But just have a great time together, really enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I find
Really
amazing,
cool.
to be able to do that again and to be able to make them happy instead of very worried and very sad, I guess. It's that's a big thing for me.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
enjoy that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have been a big help in making those changes. Yeah.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, because I never really expected to be doing this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's always really exciting.
Yeah.
But then also I think it's really exhilarating to see how people, because I just make some stuff, and then but you pick it up and you do something
Yes.
really challenging with it.
Yeah.
And really exciting, but it is difficult work.
Yeah.
And so I think that is not a small feat.
Yeah.
Right, that you have taken these skills and started to apply them.
Yeah.
Because it's really challenging. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And another big thing is being able to just do nothing.
Yeah, doing nothing is great.
It is great, but it's it's just because with the fears I was having, I wasn't really avoiding stuff, because the fears were always about something in the past. So I wasn't really worried about the future. So I was still doing a lot of stuff. I was seeing people, but I was just always doing compulsions, always very anxious, always feeling very guilty, and always being busy up here. So even just being able to like sit down and meditate or read a book or be in nature is just amazing. Yeah.
I find that too. One of the biggest benefits is being able to just be. Because I was so uncomfortable being, but also if there was any quiet time, I would just ruminate and just thinking up disaster scenarios in my head. And looking back now, like that, I would just spend hours doing that. Days.
I remember working in a store, and part of the job was just to put products in the right spots. But because I was just doing that, was just too little engagement for my brain, and I would just spend days like at work just ruminating in my head about stuff, unless I had someone to talk to. But it's just being able to not do that is great.
I do enjoy it. Is weird because you are in a gym a lot.
Yes.
I find I was in a gym, so I was in London recently, and I do find it, again, one of these things that's really normal for people. Increasingly challenging, I think, for people is to spend time not on their phones. Because I know in this particular gym I was at in London, there was one room of machines, and just often, for whatever reason, the music wasn't as loud in there. But then it was so fascinating to be in a gym and nobody was talking, but all the machines were full because nobody was working out together. Everybody, and this has got to be bad for posture. Right? After like you'd see people like they're doing like heavy leg press and then they're just like hunched over on their phone after every set. I feel like that probably is. If you're watching this at the gym right now, put your phone down.
Please do continue watching at a later moment. So do you ever get like sentimental reflecting on the journey you've been on, or how are you reflecting on all of this?
It is really amazing to connect with people around the world on this journey. And always I find that kind of just amazing, or it's a huge privilege. It's really astounding. It's really fascinating to me too that still like a lot of great mental health supports and skills aren't as easily accessible. Like it's still kind of weird to me that this is, I don't know how to describe it, like that this is a thing I'm doing. Like I just thought I would make some videos at first and be like, all right, because obviously now people, like the videos are out there. People weren't sharing about recovery skills. Like, okay, they're there now. My work here is done. Like I had a day job. I wasn't planning to do this as a kind of full-time journey. But it's been so amazing to connect with people around the world and to have an opportunity to like share skills, but share this journey that we, even though we're all in different places, we all do have really similar brains as humans. And so being able to go on that and support people on that journey and get support from the community has been really amazing. Like I never expected I would be sitting on a bench here in Nijmegen, right? Pretty good.
We practiced beforehand.
I had to practice. I knew where I was going, but I didn't know how to say it.
Yes. All right. So I'm gonna wrap up here.
Okay.
Thank you so much
thanks for having me on the recovery bench.
Yes. This bench is very good. Very recovery focused. Oh wait, no, the bench maybe isn't. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll see you guys in the next video.